Hey folks, MasakoX here. Now, many stories here like to talk about the notion of a character changing their tone in regards to their alignment. Most of those tales are for the bigger personalities within Dragon Ball, but this story here goes to a character who didn't really get a chance to do much outside of their original purpose, nor would people expect there to be much else, anything resounding for said persona. Today, we're talking about Babidi, and the idea of them regretting their choice to bring forth Majin Buu into the world and finding a way to redeem himself in a manner which is true to himself. Not trying to shoehorn in a particular plot for the sake of it. That isn't accurate. Then again, there is a lot of intrigue into the origins of Babidi and where they came from. So, we can easily add some curious lore that had otherwise been lacking. Yes, we're going to be adding some ideas about magic into the story as well as the arcane from millions of years ago. What if the little potato was good for you? Today's video is sponsored by Tokyo Treat and MasakoX. With MasakoX, you will receive up to 20 traditional and artisan Japanese delights, including Japanese teas and one wonderfully crafted example of tableware with your box every single month. MasakoX helps local Japanese snack makers continue to share their traditions that have been passed down for over a century. So not only is this for a good cause, but it's also showing you good taste. My favourite of the bunch being the apple jam bun. As for Tokyo Treat, you'll get to try up to 20 of the latest, most exclusive and seasonal flavoured Japanese snacks that are only available for a very limited time, so we get to share in the hype as well. If you love the Sakura theme from last month, get ready for even more Sakura-filled delights, as well as light and fresh fruity flavours. Out of both boxes, I adored and was amazed by the yogurt peach Fanta. I've never tasted anything like that. Makes British Fanta seem very dull. You can go to my second channel Up on the Lookout to see more from these boxes, or you can get $5 off your first MasakoX or Tokyo Treat box by simply using the code MasakoX at checkout, or of course the link's in the description before March 31st. I hope you give this a look, and thanks once again to Tokyo Treat and MasakoX for sponsoring this video. In the last part, Beerus had caused a stink concerning Babidi's very existence outside of his usual sphere of influence. However, this then sparked a particularly strange premonition from the potato, something of which he needed to find out more of. But he couldn't leave the planet without some kind of chaperone. Enter Piccolo, who had started to understand more and more how Babidi operated and worked, and could easily tell that the mage was being serious and genuinely trying to find out this mystery about his past, and how more information about Beerus and the like could be rather valuable for the Dragon team in the long run. With his trust in the potato, the pair set off to the planet that Babidi and his family called home. There, they found out many things as to Babidi's creation, but also that somebody had paid a visit recently, judging by the state the castle was in. Things got even worse when we found out more about the specifics and rule set of Babidi's creation and placement as Bibidi's successor. It turned out that since Babidi had wandered off the path set for him by his father, the role of lead vassal had been revoked from him, and instead placed with another. So does that mean we're sprouting more spuds? Well, let's resume and find out. Now, if you're familiar with the ending of our last outing with Piccolo and Babidi, the latter had decided to vent his anger at being replaced on the Slugman instead of Babidi. The shriek of the wizard filled the room, Piccolo bracing himself for whatever vitriolic revenge was coming his way. He knew how potent Babidi could be when he was in the right mood or in a bad mood, or, well, I mean, they're basically the same thing, right? And he was definitely in the mood for malice. But something was wrong. It seemed like the magical formula that he was best known for had been suddenly diluted. He was boiling inside like a baked potato at the lack of efficacy. It turned out that more things were happening other than just titles or roles being swapped around. Piccolo opened his eyes and looked down at his body. Nothing changed. He was still in control of said body.
Was that it?
Piccolo raised an eyebrow.
That was a little mediocre, even for you.
His powers. What was happening to his powers? What was meant to be a terrific and intense cascade of fire and brimstone and control of the mind of the Namekian who had softened him up out of revenge had been reduced to mere sparks. Babidi wanted to scream angrily, truly let out his ire at his powers being curtailed, but he hadn't the energy for it. Instead, he let out a mere whimper.
Did you at least feel tempted? Just for a moment? Any evil nature of yours resurfacing? be honest.
Piccolo shook his head. Was that what he was trying to do? Take over his mind? Typical. Surely he would have had more sense than to do that tired technique.
Not really. That's why I felt confused. But you're not making this up. Something really did happen to you.
Babidi felt as if the ground itself were moving from under his feet, and he collapsed to his knees. Everything that had made him had been taken away. What was he now? Nothing more than an angry little imp in ironic clothing. There was nothing magical about him anymore. He was all washed up.
I am completely useless now. Disowned. Powerless. A mere fleck of sputum on what was once a marvelous legacy.
Piccolo wasn't so sure about this.
You managed to take down those defenses on your own. What's changed?
You don't understand! Odds are that whatever has removed the power from my very hands most likely allowed us to enter, just to witness our suffering and my powers being erased right there and then. If said powers are not with me, then they are with someone else. I did not even know that there were more of us. Father worked in mysterious ways, clearly.
The Namekian looked around the room. It had become obvious that all kinds of weird experiments and craft were being birthed here.
Yeah, that might be a problem. You're a big enough thorn for us. To have another knocking around? Yeah, we need to warn the others.
Babidi whipped around in horror. The wizard did not like that idea at all. He knew exactly what would go down. Either nobody would believe him, despite Piccolo there backing him up, or they could simply destroy him, knowing that he was powerless to resist or counter. The little prince would take great joy in doing that.
No, we cannot do that! That's what got me into this mess in the first place! You people and your lovey-dovey morality! I refuse to work with you anymore! This is my mess to deal with, alone!
Piccolo allowed himself a deep sigh, having heard this rhetoric before, and sat next to the potato.
So now what? Are you gonna be sitting here on your own, wallowing in self-pity?
What else do I have left?
Babidi shook his head.
You hadn't even felt that spell! I'm ruined!
The big green one thought for a moment before speaking again, choosing to reveal some candid information to help ease the potato's brow.
Have I ever told you that my dad spit me out as an egg after Goku made a huge hole in his chest?
Babidi was perplexed as to why this one was telling him this right now.
How does this relate to my present situation? This is not the time for sharing memories,
Piccolo continued.
Hear me out. My father was not exactly the nicest person going. He wanted to rule Earth in a pretty questionable way. You would like him, actually. The thing is, that the only goal he had envisioned me to do, as his heir or semi-reincarnation, was to go along with that plan. Do what he did, and nothing more. And initially, I was all about that. Every waking moment was spent planning the right moment to kill Goku, take revenge, and then carry out my father's plan.
Babidi blinked twice.
Ah, continue.
But some years passed since that first spark within my head. I soon discovered that I didn't really feel like controlling the world. There wasn't that lasting drive to carry on. Something else came into the picture as well. I didn't want his ambitions to define me anyway, and that there were more ways of increasing my power that were outside my father's short-sightedness, and they were available to me.
What are you trying to say?
What I am trying to say is that I understand where and what you are. And if you are as great of a wizard as you claim to be, surely you can increase your power without your father's help. He clearly didn't care about you as a person. He, just like my dad did with me, considered you a tool. Do you want to be known as that? A tool?
Babidi pondered that for a while and shook his head in anger. This made too much sense, he thought. This had to be some kind of trick.
I'm not listening to you anymore. You're trying to make me as soft as you are right now. If I got any softer, I may no longer exist for all I know. You've done enough damage for one day. Stop this!
Piccolo smirked and started charging his special beam cannon.
Oh, that's so? Do you want to see how soft I really am?
Wait, what are you doing?
Piccolo's eyes gleamed with a sudden flicker of venom.
If you're not going to listen to reason, we could deal with this the old-fashioned way. There might be still a danger within you. You're still a threat. And then you might try and join forces with that much stronger sibling of yours. I know you. You'll always find the best way to side with the largest power in the room. And I can't risk that.
Babidi frantically waved his hands toward the Namekian, begging him to stop.
Wait, Piccolo! Wait! Let's talk about this!
Babidi laughed nervously.
I was talking! But since it wasn't getting me anywhere, I thought it was time to use a language that you would understand.
Babidi swallowed loudly. He then tried to play off this sudden change of events like he meant for this to happen. Yeah.
Wait, I think I'm beginning to understand. Yes, I'll think about what you just said.
Piccolo nodded and stopped charging the attack.
Good. This would take just one puncher of that big head of yours too. Just saying.
The mage slumped against a wall, sheer relief flowing through his body. Whew. That was too close. Unless that blasted Namekian was bluffing all the time in order to keep him quiet. Whatever that was, Babidi would rather not risk finding out.
Alright. Any ideas as to where we could find that sibling of yours? I can imagine him causing some problems for us soon enough. Or even coming after you.
Not a clue. Before we got here, I was sure that I was the only heir to Babidi's magic. And if I were him and organized the whole inheriting thing like that, I would have kept my progeny unaware of each other's existence. Knowing of multiple heirs could have gotten rather messy.
Piccolo nodded.
You're right. You left a big clue in that book. We just need to find the exact details.
Probably some kind of a warning.
The big green looked suddenly bemused.
I don't get it. How come you hadn't come across this earlier?
Babidi blushed visibly.
Yeah. About that. I might have missed that particular book, but no matter. Look, I think I was imprinted with certain tidbits of news and information. I didn't think at the time that I needed some information about my own origin. I thought I was aware of everything.
To his surprise, Piccolo agreed with him.
Well, that makes sense. Okay, pack those books on the ship. There might be more stuff you missed.
Really?
You want to get more powerful, right? I may not know much about magic, but there might be something for you in there, those books. If you don't have the magic, then you'll just have to get it back again the hard way.
All right.
And so, together, they started to pack the old tomes on the ship. They could not fit every single one aboard, but mostly those were the books that Babidi could not really fully recall or understand or were relevant enough to their enquiry. He wanted to tell Piccolo that he was risking far more than he could possibly imagine by stoking the wrath of Babidi, but he held his tongue this time. Unless he was reading his mind, in which case he already knew, so what was the point of worrying? It was hard to tell with Piccolo sometimes. In any case, he wasn't showing that he knew, which Babidi decided was a win-win situation.
So, what now?
The wizard seemed anxious.
We return to Earth, and we try to figure this out. How to find more information about your sibling. One thing I have to give to your father is that he was pretty smart in printing you with that innate fear of Beerus. It would keep you in check.
Why do you think that's smart? It's annoying, that's what it is!
With your ego, you'd have totally tried to dominate Beerus, if it wasn't for that little inhibitor, and that could end badly for everyone.
Babidi wanted to find a stinging remark, but he couldn't. The Namekian was right. If it hadn't been for that irrational fear, upon sight of Beerus, he probably would have at least given it a go to try and take over his mind, see where it would have taken him. But in reality, it would have led to him probably being vaporized.
Point taken.
Alright, let's get back.
Babidi allowed himself one last look around the tower. This place could be left to rot and be forgotten for all he cared now anyway. Before they left, he set up magical defenses and bolstered them so that nobody would ever cross the threshold again. Despite his powers being woefully weaker than before, his brain still functioned, and he knew how the mechanics of the building operated. So that was at least one last way he could make himself useful, before the long winding road to reclaiming his power and mystical prowess began. Hopefully, even in this weakened state, his glyphs would be enough to keep away the eventual trespassers or scavengers. The journey back to Earth was largely uneventful, and even more awkward than before. For the most part, Babidi was studying the tomes, or at least pretending to do so, to make himself look busy and avoid any potential probing of information, or, sharing emotions. It was hard to focus though, knowing that there was another one of his kin out there, more worthy of the power he once had. His replacement must be laughing it up right now, knowing that a lesser version of himself was scurrying around the galaxy, running for its life. I mean, that's what he would have thought, had he been in that situation. Maybe Piccolo had a point about Babidi, but that doesn't mean that Babidi would give up his plans of galactic domination just because of that. That would come in time. He wasn't going to let anyone else, though, get in the way of that. For now, he would once again play by the larger narrative. If not for his father, he would gladly have done this for himself. Yes, that felt like an idea. Surpass Babidi and make his sibling pay for the loss of power. Piccolo wasn't probably aware that he gave him that idea. Oh well, for the time being, he will collaborate with the Green One, and when the time was right, he would strike. He eyed the Namekian, focused on his meditation. This guy was really hard to read sometimes. He could be in deep thought, sleeping or probing his mind, or all three at once. He wasn't moving that much though, so he just assumed that Piccolo was sleeping. Yes, sleeping. Meanwhile, in a tower similar to the one they had just left, someone was studying tomes with much bigger engagement than our potato-headed protagonist. And although this creature somehow knew that Majin Buu had been lost, he was still studying a large tome with a large M on the cover. From time to time, it was giggling to itself. There was still some ancient magic left in the universe, he thought, that it could benefit from. And time was never an issue for the true heir of Babidi. Yes, Babidi knew that one thing he needed was just a little bit of patience. And that's where I call for you to have said patience, as that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. If you like this story, check out this story here, where the magical twists saw Chi-Chi become far more than she ever could have been, and in fact a lot nicer. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!